Mr. President, I rise today in sadness, admittedly anger as well, but I am sad because yet again we find ourselves on the floor of the Minnesota Senate trying to fend off only the latest attack on the idea and the ideal that we take care of one another. As Minnesotans, we look out for one another. That, Mr. President, has been the secret to our success as a state. And we've taken that core value, which is shared widely by so many across the vast expanse of this state, and operationalized it, embedded it in the very policies, practices, and allocation of our resources. Mutual aid is when communities, at the first call for help, send personnel and equipment. Just a short time ago, Mr. President, Minneapolis sent its bomb squad to St. Cloud. The Minneapolis and St. Paul bomb squads have responded to several communities across the state in the last few years, from Wilmer to Kimball to Freeport to North Branch to detonate explosives. We're here to help when needed. We don't send a bill. Whenever there's a fire, Mr. President, a big fire in Minneapolis, the neighboring communities send their fire trucks, and vice versa, all the time. Happens practically every day. Local government aid is not just property tax relief. It is a way to make sure that the basic quality of life services and public amenities are funded in every community: libraries, parks, good streets, public safety, and on, so that we don't have incredible differences from community to community. We share in the wealth and prosperity across the state from the state's general fund, and it has the added benefit of making our tax system more fair, more progressive, less reliant on the property tax, which is only loosely related to one's ability to pay. Fiscal disparities in the metropolitan area is a system where our metro region shares in the improvements in commercial industrial property taxes in one community, so that we don't pit ourselves against each other and see each other as competitors. We operate as a coherent and cohesive whole. We take care of one another. Minneapolis is more times than not a donor to the fiscal disparities pool. We have a metro-wide sewer system. We have park systems in the metro area in which we delegate and designate parts of our park system to share with each other, so that we all share in those amazing amenities. And don't get me started on the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund, out of which we pay for state highways, county state aid highways, municipal state aid streets, township roads, and the like. Another place where we share in the prosperity of the state. I'm happy as a taxpayer and a resident of Minneapolis to pay for nice county state aid highways and state highways up in Kitson County, roads that I'll probably never see, but I know are a benefit to the people up there, a benefit to our full state. The legacy funds that we love so much, the sales tax that was designated, shared across the state, not spent in the places necessarily where it's raised. Supporting all those many, many MnSCU campuses obviously can't be supported by the communities that surround them. Those are important, Mr. President. We take care of one another so our young people can thrive and prosper and enjoy a better future. Where does the general fund money come from to support that broad and sprawling MnSCU system? And major institutions that have a statewide reach are disproportionately supported in places like Minneapolis and Hennepin County. The Level 1 Trauma Care Center of HCMC, our convention center, numerous stadiums, serving all comers with no questions. But more importantly, Mr. President, my heart is warmed every time in the news there's some sort of a disaster or tragedy in a community in Minnesota. We see this outpouring of warmth and neighborliness and help. People without hesitation come out of their homes to clean up, to provide food. Mr. President, we pay a lot of attention. Senator Newman had hearings on the unrest. Lots of photos of fires and broken glass done by residents from all of your districts, by the way. But what we didn't see in those videos was as Senator Fateh spoke of earlier, hundreds of my neighbors in Minneapolis turning out the next morning with brooms, with hardware, with food, with diapers. Sanford Middle School had a line so long that it took hours and hours for people to get through the line to drop off food. They had more food than they knew what to do with for people who needed it. That's the real story of Minnesota and Minnesotans in Minneapolis and the tragedy last year. I myself, if I can break my arm, patting my own back here, but it's really about my neighbors. My husband and I put out a quick notice on social media. We were going to match dollars to buy gift certificates at our local hardware store, Fratallone's Ace Hardware. We got thousands of dollars in donations through Venmo. We bought thousands of dollars of $50 and $100 gift certificates. I gave a whole ton of them to my friend, Senator Torres Ray, who in turn gave them to the Latino and Latina-owned businesses in her community. It was amazing. So members, why now and why Minneapolis? I don't know. I will not impugn or question anyone's motives. But I do know this. I do know a lot of you campaign in ways that impugn Minneapolis and create fear of Minneapolis and denigrate the citizens of Minneapolis. Why do I know that? Because I see your campaign literature. And who's featured on that campaign literature? Myself.
Senator Benson, for what reason do you rise?
Mr. President, Senator Dibble did raise a point of order about Senator Westrom keeping directly to the bill. When we are talking about methods of campaigning, it is clearly not keeping to the question before the body.
Senator Dibble, do you have any more comments on Senate File 749?
Yes, Mr. President.
Please continue. Please keep them specific to Senate File 749.
Mr. President, I do know that Senator Jasinski on a videotape recently talked about how his taxpayers' money wasn't going to be going to support those people in Minneapolis. Mr. President, I could hardly believe my ears when I heard that. The kind of division that suggests, but also the mistake of talking about someone's taxpayers' money. Mr. President, the vast majority of those taxes that are raised in Minnesota are raised in Hennepin County and Minneapolis. I'm happy that our tax dollars go and support the fine roads and the institutions through our LGA, through our mutual aid efforts in places like Owatonna, in Dodge County, and places like that, Mr. President. Mr. President, would Senator Gazelka yield?
Senator Gazelka will yield. Senator Dibble.
Mr. President, Senator Gazelka, can you cite any instance in which I or any member of the Minneapolis delegation or the St. Paul delegation or any member of the DFL caucus, for that matter, have opted to malign and impugn those who live in your district or take direct action to deny the funds that support the services your constituents need to support their livelihoods, their safety, or their quality of life?
Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, Senator Dibble, I'm not sure where you're going, but I did hear a number of people say that it was people from Brainerd and Staples that came down and were the ones doing the damage down in Minneapolis during the riots. I heard the governor and other people here talk about that. Brainerd happens to be Senator Rude's, by the way, but I did see that the numbers actually were that 77% of all arrested people were from the metro area, of which the vast majority were from Minneapolis. 15% were rural Minnesota, and 5% were out of state, which meant 5 or 6 or 7 people were from out of state. So, you know, but as far as I don't think it's wise, as Senator Dibble, to try to divide between metro, rural, suburban. In my closing comments, I'm going to talk about how we need to figure out a path through this. I do think that the city of Minneapolis is, frankly, a very, very important city for Minnesota. And I'll give more comments at the end, but it really is about the leadership of the city of Minneapolis that people are frustrated with.
Mr. President.
Senator Dibble.
So I'll take that response as a no. Senator Gazelka hasn't heard us do that. We've talked about some instances of individual behaviors that are a matter of public record. Yet Senator Gazelka chose to say in an interview, rural people like to take care of themselves. They're not interested in government helping them. That's their last resort. In the inner city, it's different. There's higher concentrations of people that are on welfare, creating a vast characterization of people who live in districts like mine. That's divisive, Mr. President. And it ignores the fact that A, there's a higher per capita amount of public dollars that go to support the folks who live in Senator Gazelka's district than in mine, and B, those dollars come from my district. But bottom line, Mr. President, I'm glad for that. I'm glad to support LGA, and I'm glad to support mutual aid, and I'm glad to support all the other efforts we make all together as a state for the health and prosperity of everyone in Minnesota. And this bill achieves the opposite, and it's corrosive. And we can do better, Mr. President. Thank you.